Their musical needs would required, in the context of worship, a new music, something that addressed their struggles and their hardships at that time in those places. The challenges that they met in the city as factory workers were quite different from those that they experienced as sharecroppers.
By 1921 now, the National Baptist Convention, the largest organization of Christians in the United States, decides to accept gospel on a certain level. I'll illustrate the difference in a minute. And they publish in 1921 a book called Gospel Pearls, the first book that was published by black people to use the term gospel, which meant a style of music and a style of singing. Gospel Pearls included four very important people: Charles Albert Tindley, Charles Price Jones, Thomas Andrew Dorsey, and Lucy Eddy Campbell, all of whom are extremely important in that they were composers of this music. And we normally look at someone like Charles Albert Tindley, who was born in 1851, and by 1905, Tindley is writing songs that are sort of borrowing some of the elements of this Pentecostalism. They're not Pentecostal, but they have this direct, colloquial, almost back fence kind of language. The song that I illustrated this song was written by him in 1905. When the storms of life are raging, Lord, stand by me. Now that's a phrase. When the storms of life are raging, stand by me. That's the kind of statement that the average person would make.
Thomas Dorsey was basically a blues singer. He called himself Georgia Tom, and for most of the 1920s he made quite a bit of money by singing off-color blues. Then suddenly he experienced, as many people do, sort of an epiphany, a revelation. He lost a lot of money suddenly. He took that as some kind of sign, and he began to turn his considerable songwriting talents to gospel music.
I was standing by the bedside of the sleep. Yeah, that's yours. And was just about to cross the swelling tide. That's your first one. Honey, asking you if you would do me a favor. Kindly take this message to the other side. If you see my Savior, tell him that you saw me. When you saw me, I was on my way. You may be some old friend who may pass through for me. Tell him I am coming home someday.
We affectionately refer to him as the godfather of gospel because he sophisticated the call and response technique which came via the oral tradition from West Africa, and he introduced the so-called jazz cadences and rhythms of popular music into the gospel idiom. What he did when he created the form we know as gospel, he put the music of faith into the common idiom of the people. It was when Lester Granger of the Urban League said that black America almost had a nervous breakdown, things were so bad. In Norfolk, Virginia, in 1928, 29, 80% of the adult population were on relief. And black men were standing on corners trying to sell their services for $1 a day. White matrons fired their maids and sent them home, and they had to wring their hands over dishwater singing Amazing Grace. So it was really the essence of gospel music that kept the frail hopes of the black community alive in our churches.
All right, let's go. Gracious Lord, I love your name. When I look back from whence I came, sometimes stumbling, sometimes falling, sometimes alone.
Not only did he write great songs, but he also tended to figure out new ways to market and merchandise the songs. He was the first one, for example, to come up with the idea of really pushing and selling and merchandising gospel songs on sheet music. He was the first person to go out and really push his songs the way a modern popular song plugger would do.
He just had a little white bag in the drawer, and he just dropped the dimes in there. So I could see he wasn't keeping up with nothing. I said, you got something yet, but you just don't know what to do with it.
But I addressed you to do it.
And I took over. And he lives today on it. So it was mine to travel around, and wherever I'd go, I'd carry the music, sing the song, sell the music after the service was over. And that's the way Mr. Dorsey's business was built.
Sally was a great singer, but her business acumen was greater than her singing. But the young woman who was born in 1911 in New Orleans, Louisiana, Mahalia Jackson, came to Chicago when she was 16 years old. And even though she'd performed with the Johnson Brothers, she eventually became Dorsey's demonstrator. And they traveled together for 14 years.